From the front porch of the Burger Residence, welcome to another episode of Dialogue with the Dukes, COVID-19 Home Edition. The show this morning is brought to you, as always, by the Patricia Lindley Center for the Performing Arts and also by the Wellington Music Store located in downtown Wellington. If you viewed our first COVID-19 episode with the officers of the drama club, where we talked about what it's like to be out of school, learning or via the internet, and the not only the requirements that are involved, but the things that have to take place in order to learn for the spring quarter of the Wellington school year. And we also interviewed Dottie Cianciola. She told us about how the COVID-19 and coronavirus has impacted the Patricia Lindley Center, and so on. So this morning we decided we want to talk with a retail person who has been, shall we say, impacted by this virus. We are interviewing a young lady by the name of Ms. Elle Ramsey. She owns the Oberlin Market in Oberlin, just up the road. Welcome, Elle. We're glad to have you with us this morning.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Obviously, the first question has to be, Elle, describe your store, what you sell, and so on.
So this is kind of like, you probably heard the song Old Time Religion. This is old time food. So good enough for grandma, was good enough for grandpa. So this is food that is produced and grown good old fashioned way without the toxic inputs. We have a full line grocery, and within that there's a lot of organic foods. So the organic National Organics program is one of the best assurances that we have now of that good quality food. Mm-hmm. That's more for national brands. So in addition to the organics, we have a lot of local products, people who are doing things in a sustainable fashion and not having the toxic inputs and having the high quality that we're looking for. So I've got a good representation of some of the local growers and farmers. We've got Elk Creek Honey, the Moore Farm, just outside of Wellington. We've got maple syrup from the Schlechter brothers in outside of Amherst. We've got Burkholder Farms, we get our meats from, and our eggs. Also get some local eggs from Rusnack Farm on Route 20. We get produce from Lettuce Heads more up your way on Jones Road. And we get Wake Robin fermented foods, sauerkraut and whatnot out of Cleveland. We get cheese, regional raw milk cheddar, and as well as some other produce, other growers, local mushrooms. We get local regional milk that's from Buckeye Country Creamery, and they're out of Ashland.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. Well, during this whole time, the last 8 weeks or so, your store has been considered essential because you are a grocery store, and you actually stock the items that many grocery stores do, but you are a lot different in the fact that one of the things that you do sell within your store are the health items that are hopefully going to keep us healthy during this coronavirus. Expand on that if you would.
Yeah, basically our immune systems are built on nutrients. They run on nutrients. And so, the best thing we can do to support that system is make sure we have a lot of good food and, in with the good, avoid the bad. Mm-hmm. And that's the idea.
Well, when we talked before the interview, you indicated a couple of things. First of all, you talked about stocking the market and also how you sell so many bulk food items.
Yeah, we have a good selection of bulk foods, and these are things that we get in depending on the product, 1 pound, 5 pound, maybe 25 pound bags. And then we reportion that and make that available just as single ingredient items. So we're talking about the beans, the peas, the lentils, lots of herbs, lots of medicinal herbs, lots of teas, lots of spices. And so people can really as you say, stock their own pantry with those good staples. And those have, the sales of those have increased. And sales of food overall has increased, but in particular, those bulk single ingredient products.
If you could, you talked about what's in your store. What is the, again, using that term bulk, what is the bulk of your business? Who are the people that actually come into your store?
It's mostly Oberlin townspeople. There's a lot of people that are usually here through the college, associated with the college, so faculty, staff, and some of those people are still, still coming into town at this point. And there's right now a few hundred Oberlin College students still in town, either international students or those who are already off campus in their own housing and decided to stay.
How are the requirements that are impacting your store actually being involved in how you do everyday business?
And the state came out with their recommendations as part of the reopening. So they have more specific recommendations as far as cleanliness and as far as occupancy and face coverings and a few other things that we have started as of May 12th.
Now, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Ohio governor says that all employees are required to wear masks, but it's only suggested for the patrons that come in. How do you, if for lack of a better term, is there a difference for the people who come in wearing masks versus not wearing masks?
So yeah, you're correct that we are required to wear them, and then patrons are not. And I would say at this point, most of them are, most of my customers are. Personally, I guess I'm not particularly concerned, and that's just because my orientation is so much that my protection, if you will, comes from my immune system. So I'm not as concerned as some about whether the person in front of me is wearing a mask.
You're again talking about the requirements. Now you have certain things that you have to do.
Clean the shopping cart handles, clean the shopping basket handles after each use. So those kind of high touch areas, strong recommendations and requirements now to clean those things regularly.
We talked about the fact that you have a very small store. How do you try to keep that social distancing?
We have our occupancy set at 10 currently, which is pretty low, and that just keeps it from feeling too cramped in here. And we all have kind of a new sense of crowded at this point, and so I think that kind of occupancy limit does a lot to help people feel at ease.
If you could talk about the flattening the curve and the herd immunity as it pertains to you.
Yeah, I think the whole flattening the curve plan was a good plan from the onset of this, and I think it was, arguably successful. We don't have a lot of metrics, and our development and our understanding is still developing, and so to the best of everybody's understanding, it seems like we did a good job with that. Then you get into how we then open back up this society, and again, there's more questions, there's not a lot of absolute answers, but part of the goal is herd immunity. So that means that in the population, people have their immune systems have had contact with the virus, and people start to develop antibodies to it, and that is their specific immunity to this infection. So I guess when we're talking about the immune system, there's the general immunity, which is just your health and your immune system's ability to respond, and then there's specific immunity, which would be like an antibodies to this particular virus. Mm-hmm. So hopefully, while we're all in lockdown and while a lot of people were staying at home, we were developing our health, we were improving our health, we were improving our general immune system.
Right.
And also it's time to think about developing our specific immunity to this virus. Um, so I think opening up the society is part of that solution. So there's a bit of a tension, if you will, between, yeah, we want to be smart and we want to, have social distance and do all these things. And at some level, we want to interact with each other because that is how the herd immunity develops. Mm-hmm. Now, with this virus, since we have such a disparity in how it affects people, we can be strategic in how we develop our immunity, meaning those who are healthy can be out in society interacting and developing that immunity, and then everybody else benefits. And while those healthy people are out in society developing immunity, they might as well go to work, and then they can populate, the stores and the cafes, and that's of course good for the economy.
In your opinion, do you feel that not only in the not only in Ohio, but do you think the United States as a whole has flattened the curve, or is flattening the curve, and is getting involved in this herd immunity?
I see the flattening the curve as really a phase one in this, and then the reopening and the development of herd immunity as stage two. So we're phase two. So we're going into phase two, and I think that it's not so much about flattening the curve anymore. It's about that R number, that reproduction number that we keep hearing about. So as herd immunity develops, that R number goes down, and the way the virus transmits is reduced. And so that's the goal of this phase.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Well, we would like to thank Miss Elle Ramsey, the owner of the Oberlin Market, very much for coming on this morning, and from a retail point of view. So I leave you with this, as I said the last time. The British Prime Minister said it's important to contain your impatience. We hope that when you do go out, we hope that you do consider wearing a mask for not only your protection, but for the protection of others. This has been Dialogue with the Dukes.